Welcome back to the channel here, guys. In the Turo business, I think it's important to have goals. One of my goals for 2022 is I wanted to purchase 5 brand new cars, and I wanted to make $100,000 in profit in 12 months' time. I'm going to tell you exactly how I'm going to do it and where I'm at in the process. We're going to use the whiteboard. Hang tight. Let's jump in. All right, guys, look, my goals are different than many host goals. I have goals like how much profit per hour that I put in the Turo business. My ultimate goal is to get to $500 per hour that I put into the Turo business. And I'm not there yet, okay? Right now, I sit between about $225 to $225 to $300 per hour, depending on the season. I also don't have goals on building a fleet out to 30, 40, 50, 100 or more cars. There's a lot of really good power hosts out there that just have massive fleets. For me, I'm happy in the 8 to 12 car. I don't have to worry about different insurance issues, and it's what I can manage by myself without having to hire somebody. In addition to, I already have a full-time job that I do pretty well at. So my goals, though, are, my goal for this year is I wanted to purchase 5 brand new cars, and I wanted to make $100,000 in profit in 12 months period of time with zero maintenance costs. Now, I say zero maintenance costs, but when I calculate what I'll do for the year, I may end up doing 2 to 3 oil changes by the end of the year. Most of these new cars I'm going to show you, their oil change marks are like 7,500 miles, 10,000 miles per oil change. It's very, very low stress. These are vehicles I'm not worried about breaking down. I'm not worried about getting calls and mechanical issues, and I don't have the time running cars back and forth to mechanical shops and so forth. So this is low stress, easy money, and let's go to the whiteboard. I'll show you how I'm doing it. All right, guys, let's jump in. Forgive the production quality. I don't have the best setup for recording. I get that. The angle's off. But I promise you, if you'll hang with me, the content is much more valuable than the actual aesthetics of it, as far as the glare and so forth. So follow with me here. So first off, remember, the goal is $100,000, 5 cars, 12 months, no maintenance, okay? Many Turo hosts were griping and complaining in November and December about how there's no bookings in January. I was planning out my 2022. And since I'm in finance, I knew that rates were going to go up. The Fed had already told us about that. And so I was busy, as I was telling many of you who have been following my channel, I was buying specific new vehicles. I was locking in extremely low rates. And inflation was at 8%. What the Fed was saying, real inflation was probably closer to 12 to 15%. And so it was really a no-brainer as far as this strategy for the future. And if you follow closely on this, I want to show you how I really mitigate my risk and ensure that I get a large return on every single vehicle. So we're going to use 5 vehicles here. These are the vehicles that I'm using in my goal of $100,000 with 5 vehicles in 12 months. And I'm not using my most lucrative vehicle, which obviously is the C8, because that would really make the challenge a lot easier, okay? So first off, we have a 22 Defender. I purchased this with a business loan at 3.99, 75 months. I have a 22 Maverick, 60 months at 199. That was straight through Ford financing. I have a Kia Carnival at 72-month loan, 2.35 through Bank of America. I have another Maverick. This is a business loan. They still gave me the 1.99 at 60 months. And I have a 22 Bronco that I have through a credit union at 199 at 75 months. So very low interest rates, which means I'm not going to pay a lot in interest over the loan, especially when I'm only keeping these vehicles 1 to 2 years tops. I'm locking in those rates. And then we have the purchase price here. So if you can't see the green on the categories, this is the cost of the vehicle. This is what I brought in for income-wise so far. This is what I owe on the vehicle, and this is the value of the vehicle. I'm using MMR or trade-in value. In other words, I want the cash value of the vehicle where I could basically take this to 2 dealerships and I could get at minimum this. A lot of times I'll be able to get more than this, but I'm using the cash value. MMR is Manheim auction value. This is what they're going through at the auction. This is what dealerships are going to pay off the street. So I'm using a street value. Sometimes I can get a couple $1,000s more from that if I shop around at different dealerships, but I want street value because that's the value I'm going to be using when I trade the vehicle in on my next vehicle. So, first things I want you to see here is that, let's go through the income. So the Defender this is from January. I got $5,000 from January. Remember, my peak season, I've only had 1 month of peak season. January and February is extremely slow in my market. March picks up a little bit, but May is my first peak season month. So $5,000 from January. Then we have the Maverick. One Maverick's brought in $2,300. That's only been since April, so April, May. I got $500 coming up booking. The Carnival is doing super well, $2,400. I got $2,700 in upcoming bookings just in the next 2 months. So we're counting that. I have February at the other Maverick at $2,100 and $1,100 upcoming. Bronco, this has been a disastrous start. With the delays from getting the vehicle has been a mess. Once I got the vehicle, I had 2 months where the vehicle had some mechanical issues. I couldn't rent the vehicle. It was a disaster, but I finally got the vehicle on the platform, actually in March, but it didn't book in March at all. Made some adjustments to it. We got $1,000 in May. We got another $1,000 upcoming within the next 2 weeks. So finally going full speed with the Bronco, and it's going to be a very profitable vehicle overall. It's just a very, very slow start. So as you can see here, we've got $18,000 of bookings already, even though most of these have only been in service for a couple months. However, I'm already 50% to my goal because we have our trade-in value. I have a total of $36,000 in equity from what I paid for the vehicle, So when I add the $18,000 to this, I'm already at $54,000. Now, the beauty of this, the way it's set up so far is every single one of these vehicles are still increasing in value. My Mavericks I can sell at virtually any dealership for $33,000. They're still going up. There's a good chance this will climb to about 35, maybe even 36. As gas prices and stuff boosts the demand for these hybrid Mavericks. Obviously, both of these are hybrids, okay? And so these are still climbing. The Carnival is still climbing in value. The Bronco is still climbing in value. Now, what I predict to happen is this should level off pretty soon. So eventually that's about the max that it's going to go, and then it'll start slowly working its way down. Now, the goal is that I want to capture as much rental income as possible, but also not lose this front-end income that I have set up. Remember, you make your money when you purchase the vehicle, and you secure your money when you sell the vehicle. And so this is why I don't keep these type of vehicles, these newer vehicles that I'm purchasing. I don't keep them long, because if I can get a good, on this vehicle here, I'm up 15 grand. On the front end, and that will come down. So maybe I trade this vehicle in when I can get 10 grand over on the front, and then at that time I might have $12,000, $15,000, and that's all profit. It ensures that each individual vehicle is uber profitable, and I want 20K on all of my new vehicles because that's more investment than I'm putting in. My cash cars, I'm happy with a $12,000, $14,000 profit. So that's the goal. Eventually this is going to level off. Eventually all of these will level off. I'm not going to say that this is going to stay here indefinitely because these will top out. They'll start moving down. But I don't want to. I definitely want to secure my front-end profit in addition to my rental income. So the balance is keeping track of this. This is something that I keep track of. This is the way my mind works in this business. And if you start looking at things like this, it will really help. It'll prevent you from being, it also does another thing. It prevents you from being upside down. You can see this is what I owe on the vehicles. So every one of my vehicles, I have $25,000 in equity here. I have This is a brand new purchase, and I'm $7,000 here. I have on the Carnival, I have almost $20,000 here. On the another $7,000 here or so. $8,000 there. I have on the Bronco, $7-8 grand here. So I'm always staying in the equity position. I never want to be upside down. And on the larger loans like this, I always want to take off that big edge. So why do I owe such the amount compared to what the trade-in value is because these ones I trade in vehicles that I had big chunks of equity in, and it takes the edge off the interest. Remember, I'm paying a little bit higher interest on this loan, so I want to take that big portion off the top end. So I'm not an auto loan is a daily interest rate, so it's calculated based on what you owe on the vehicle at that time. So if I take 10-15 grand off the top of it, it really lowers the amount of interest that I'm going to pay. As far as this goes, so when we come down here, I'm always in a very strong equity position, and this helps me out when I want to move my Turo, my Turo profits to some other investments. For example, if I'm watching Bitcoin very closely right now, if Bitcoin gets down to $20,000, I can cash out either two of these vehicles and secure my profits. Take the $20,000 in equity or $25,000 in equity and just buy a bunch of Bitcoin. The other thing is, the big question is, well, how do you buy vehicles like this? If you haven't seen make sure you watch my video on inflation, the best hedge against inflation, using the Turo business to hedge against inflation. That'll tell you exactly how I buy vehicles like this. A lot of these were custom builds early on in the system, and that's where we're at. I'm super happy of my positioning. Of course, I'm not counting my C8, so that's that I can do close to half of this by itself. But we're halfway there to the goal, and the key is watching these numbers here, the values of the vehicle, in addition to what the income is. And hopefully that's helpful, guys. Hopefully you learned something. And this is the way my mind thinks in this business. And on these vehicles that I'm spending a lot of money, or I'm borrowing a lot of money, I want to maximize and ensure that I'm making large profits on each and every one, and you can do the same thing. So, all right, guys, until next time, I'm out. Thanks for tuning in. All right, guys, hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully you learned something from it. And if you haven't, if you want to see how to purchase cars right, a lot of these vehicles, many of them were built out. But you look at those numbers, you're like, well, how can you buy new cars and they're worth more as pre-owned vehicles? Look, this is a common thing right now, and you have to be taking advantage of this. And there's still dealerships out there where you can get vehicles for MSRP or a little bit under. And if you can, immediately they become more valuable. If you buy the right ones, as I mentioned in the video I talked about earlier, then those then those vehicles will continue to increase in value over that next year, even 18 months, some cases 2 years worth of time, and you get to keep all that profit. Now, as far as this year goes, at the end of the year, I'm not planning on necessarily cashing out all those vehicles, but I want to be in a position of $100,000 in the positive. And then I will probably trade one or two of those vehicles depending on some of the other reservations I have coming in. The Ford Lightning coming in. I have the Chevy EV truck coming in. Whatever vehicles, as those vehicles come in, I'll trade in some of these other 5 that I have. And in my state, I get a massive tax credit every time I trade a vehicle in on it. So that's how I do this business. That's how I make sure that if I'm purchasing new vehicles, that I maximize each and every individual deal, each and every individual vehicle. That being said, this should be a big testament to whenever you see somebody posting, the only way to do this business is cash cars. And, I read a post where this week where if a $5,000 car can bring in $40 a day, then a $20,000 car should be bringing in $200 a day. That's not the way it works, okay? And so anytime you hear somebody saying that the cash route, and I have cash cars, I'm not against cash cars. I have several cash cars that are paid for, that I use to just increase cash flow. But the cash car route is definitely not the most profitable if you're doing something similar to like I'm doing now. This is by far the most profitable way to do this business. Getting high interest vehicles early in the process and maximizing the amount of rental income you can bring in while those vehicles are increasing in value. So until next time, guys, I'm out, and thanks for tuning in. Oh, one last note, guys. I will be going out to Las Vegas on June 12th, and we have already given away our +1 to a lucky subscribers. But I am going to do a breakfast on Sunday, June 12th. In the morning, 10:45. If you're interested, hit me up. I'd love to hang out with maybe 3, 4, 5 of you guys that are in the area there, and we could talk Turo and talk what you're doing. Otherwise, guys, thanks for tuning in. I'm out.